到他们人都上去，差不多都来了，人来咯。他们要准备上台。去旁边挡一下，他们人一直能进进出出的。
大家午安，我是台积电企业讯息处的孙佑文，欢迎您今天来参加我们台积公司2019年第二季的法人说明会。由于这个法说会是向全球投资人同时连线转播，所以我们会全程使用英文，请大家见谅。Welcome to TSMC's second quarter 2019 earnings conference and conference call. This is Elizabeth Sun, TSMC's Senior Director of Corporate Communications and your host for today. Today's event is webcast live through TSMC's website at www.tsmc.com. If you are joining us through the conference call, your dial-in lines are in listen-only mode. As this conference is being viewed by investors around the world, we will conduct this event in English only. The format for today's event will be as follows. First, TSMC's Senior Vice President and CFO, Ms. Laura Ho, will summarize our operations in the second quarter 2019, followed by our guidance for the third quarter. Afterwards, Ms. Ho and TSMC CEO, Dr. C.C. Wei, will jointly provide the company's key messages. Then, TSMC's Chairman, Dr. Mark Liu, will host a Q&A session where all our executives on stage, including TSMC's Deputy CFO, Mr. Wendell Huang, will entertain your questions. For those participants on the call, if you do not yet have a copy of today's press release, you may download it from TSMC's website at www.tsmc.com. Please also download the summary slides in relation to today's conference presentation. As usual, I would like to remind everyone that today's discussions may contain forward-looking statements which are subject to significant risks and uncertainties, which could cause actual results to differ materially from those contained in the forward-looking statements. Please refer to the safe harbor notice that appears on our press release. And now I would like to turn the microphone to TSMC CFO, Ms. Laura Ho, for the summary of operations and current quarter guidance.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. My presentation will start with financial highlights for the second quarter and followed by the guidance of the third quarter. Our second quarter revenue increased 10.2% quarter over quarter as we already passed the bottom of the cycle of our business and began to see demand increases. Gross margin increased by 1.7 percentage points sequentially to 43%, mainly due to the absence of photoresist defects material incident and a slightly more favorable foreign exchange rate. Total operating expenses represented 11.2% of net revenue, lower than 11.9% in the first quarter. Operating margin increased by 2.3 percentage points sequentially to 31.7%. Overall, our second quarter EPS was $2.57, and ROE was 16.2%. Now let's take a look at revenue by technology. 7-nanometer process technology accounted for 21% of wafer revenue in the second quarter. 10-nanometer was 3%, and 16-nanometer was 23%. Advanced technologies, which are defined as 16-nanometer and below, accounted for 47% of wafer revenue, up from 42% in the first quarter. Now let's talk about the revenue contribution by platform. Smartphone increased 5% quarter over quarter to accounted for 45% of our second quarter revenue. HPC increased 23% to accounted for 32%. IoT increased 15% to accounted for 8%. Automotive increased 3% to accounted for 5%. Digital consumer electronics and others went down slightly, accounted for 8% to 4% each of our wafer revenue. Moving on to the balance sheet, we ended the second quarter with cash and marketable securities of 765 billion NT dollars, an increase of 4 billion NT dollars from the last quarter. On the liability side, current liabilities increased by 244 billion NT dollars as we accrued about 259 billion NT dollars for 2018 and for first quarter 2019. 2018 cash dividends of NT dollar $8 per share will be paid today, and the first quarter 2019 dividend of NT $2 per share will be paid out in October. On financial ratios, accounts receivable turnover days decreased 7 days to 42 days. Days of inventory decreased 3 days to 76 days, primarily due to lower days in working process inventories and finished goods, both of which resulted from higher shipments out of inventories built in first quarter 19. Now let me make a few comments on cash flow and Capex. During the second quarter, we generated about NT dollar 118 billion cash from operations and spent NT dollar 116 billion in capital expenditures. As a result, we generated free cash flow of NT dollar 1.4 billion, and our overall cash balance increased NT dollar 4 billion to NT dollar 650 billion at the end of the quarter. In US dollar terms, our second quarter capital expenditure was $3.75 billion. I have finished my financial summary. Now let's turn to third quarter guidance. Based on the current business outlook, we expect third quarter revenue to be between 9.1 billion and 9.2 billion US dollars, which is an 18% sequential increase at the midpoint. Based on exchange rate assumption of $1 to 31.0 NT dollars, gross margin is expected to be between 46 and 48%. Operating margin is expected to be between 35 and 37%. This concludes my financial presentation. Let me follow by making a few comments about the profitability, Capex, and the cash dividend. First, about the profitability. Let me make some comments on our second quarter and third quarter and the overall profitability outlook. Our second quarter 2019 gross margin improved by 1.7 percentage points sequentially, mainly due to the absence of the photoresist material incident from first quarter and a slightly more favorable foreign exchange rate. The reason second quarter revenue is slightly above the high end of our guidance, but gross margin is at the low end, is because the pace of cost improvement at N7 did not meet our plan in second quarter. But we expect costs to gradually improve towards the plan, starting from the third quarter. We have just guided third quarter 2019 gross margin to improve by 4 percentage points sequentially at the midpoint, mainly as we expect a higher level of overall capacity utilization. Our gross margin in first half 2019 was primarily impacted by a lower capacity utilization rate. But as our business and utilization rate improves in the second half of this year, we believe about 50% is still a good target for our gross margin going forward. Now, regarding 2019 Capex planning, at the beginning of this year, we have guided our 2019 Capex budget to be between 10 and 11 billion US dollars. However, over the last 3 months, we have seen an acceleration in the worldwide 5G development. We believe this will lead to an increase in demand for our 5nm and 7nm technologies beyond the level we forecasted 3 months ago. We are therefore working closely with our customers for the most effective capacity planning for our N5 and N7. We expect our 2019 Capex is likely to exceed the high end of our guidance range. We are currently evaluating our 2019 Capex plans and expect to provide you a more detailed update during our October earnings conference. My last comment is about the cash dividend distribution. We have communicated our dividend policy earlier this year. We will have sustainable cash dividend per share on both an annual and a quarterly basis. In addition, as our free cash flow increases, we will distribute about 70% of our free cash flow as cash dividend. TSMC's AGM in June approved the board's approval of $8 cash dividend per share and for full year 2018, and the revision of the Article of Incorporation to adopt quarterly dividends. The board then approved $2 per share dividend for the first quarter 2019, which will be distributed in October 2019. Therefore, TSMC's shareholder will receive a total of $10 cash dividend per share this year. That also means shareholder will receive at least NT $10 per share cash dividend for 2020. Going forward, TSMC has set the payment months for the quarterly dividend as January, April, July, and October of each year. This concludes my remark. Now I would like to turn to C.C. Wei for his comment.
Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start with near-term demand and inventory. We conclude our second quarter with revenue of NT 241 billion, or US dollar 7.75 billion, slightly above our guidance due to a higher demand from HPC and IoT applications as compared to the time when we gave the guidance. Although our business continued to be impacted by the softer overall global economic condition, customer inventory management, and high-end mobile product seasonality, we have also passed the bottom of the cycle of our business and began to see demand increases. Moving into third quarter this year, TSMC's business will be driven by new product launches of premium smartphones, the acceleration of 5G development, and the increasing adoption of our industry-leading 7nm node by high-performance computing applications. Now let's talk about the inventory. Our fabless customers' overall inventory is being gradually digested throughout the second quarter. We expect it to reduce to several days above seasonal level exiting the second quarter, leading to an improved inventory environment for the second half of this year. Although a soft global economic condition and trade uncertainties remain, we expect our business to be much stronger in the second half as compared with the first half of this year, due to the strong demand for our industry-leading 7nm technology solutions. The progress of our advanced technology is well on track, and we are very confident in our technology leadership. Over the last 3 months, we have seen an acceleration in the worldwide 5G development. This will speed up the introduction and deployment of 5G network and smartphone in several major markets around the world. We expect this to lead to an increase in demand for our 5nm and 7nm technologies, and we are working closely with our customers to carefully plan our capacity to meet their demand, as our CFO just said. Now I will talk about the N5 status and N3 development. Our N5 technology has already entered risk production in fourth quarter. Customer tape-out activity are underway, and volume production is scheduled in first half of year 2020, with 80% logic density gain, 80%, and 15% speed. Compared with a 7nm, we believe our N5 technology is the most advanced in the foundry industry, with the best density, performance, power, and transistor technology. Our 5nm technology solution will be the foundry industry's most advanced solution until our 3nm arrives. We are confident that 5nm will have a strong ramp and be a large and long-lasting node for TSMC. On N3, the technology development progress is going well, and we are already engaging with early customers on the technology definition. We expect our 3nm technology to further extend our leadership position well into the future. Now I will talk about the ramp-up of N7, N7 Plus, and the progress of N6. We are seeing very strong demand at N7 across a wide spectrum of products for mobile, HPC, and IoT applications. Meanwhile, our N7 Plus, which adopts EUV for a few critical layers, has already entered volume production. We expect our customers' end products using N7 Plus will be in the market in high volume this quarter. We expect strong demand to continue into next year. N6 provides a clear migration path for second wave N7 products as its design rules are 100% compatible with N7 while providing 18% logic density gain and performance to cost advantage. N6 will use more UV layer than N7 Plus. N6 risk production is scheduled to begin in fourth quarter year 2020 with customer product tape-outs in second half 2020. And volume production starts before the end of year 2020. Reaffirm N7 Plus will contribute more than 25% of our wafer revenue in this year. And we expect even higher percentage in next year from N7, N7 Plus, and N6 because development of 5G accelerates and demand from HPC, mobile, and other applications continue to grow. Now let me talk about TSMC's competitiveness. The foundry business model has proven to be the most efficient model in the semiconductor industry. As a pure-play dedicated foundry, we collaborate and work closely together with our customers to unleash their innovations to the market and enable their success. We do not have any internal products, and we do not compete with customers. Within foundry, TSMC competes on technology leadership, manufacturing excellence, and customers' trust. Our trinity of strengths enables us to be everyone's foundry. We have the most useful and robust technology offering across both advanced and specialty technologies. We work diligently to protect our customers' technology, extend our leadership, and accelerate our technology differentiations. We are the world's largest and trusted provider of logic capacity with an excellent manufacturing track record. We will continue to unleash innovations for all our customers for years to come. Finally, I'll talk about our Cfo transition. After serving very well as TSMC's CFO for the past 16 years, Laura Ho will take on a new challenge as head of Europe and Asia sales. Subject to the board of directors' approval, Wendell Huang will become TSMC's new CFO effective September 1st. Wendell has been with TSMC for 20 years and has served as TSMC's deputy CFO and head of finance division. He brings a wealth of experience and knowledge of TSMC, and I am confident he will continue the strong tradition of TSMC's finance organization. I'm excited about both appointments and look forward to continue to work closely with both Laura and Wendell in their new roles. And thank you for your attention.
This concludes our prepared statements. Before we begin the Q&A session, I would like to remind everybody to limit your questions to 2 at a time so that all the participants have an opportunity to ask their questions. Questions will be taken both from the floor and from the call. Should you wish to raise your questions in Chinese, I will translate it to English before our management answers your question. For those of you on the call, if you would like to ask a question, please press the star, then 1 on your keypad now. Questions will be taken in the order in which they were received. If at any time you would like to remove yourself from the questioning queue, please press the pound or the hash key. We'll start the question first from Credit Suisse, Randy Abrams.
Thank you. And maybe since it's Laura's last time, and we also have 2 CFOs, I'll start with a financial question. On the gross margin, if you could elaborate just a bit more on what were the triggers for the slower progress on gross margin, as it seems uncharacteristic for TSMC, at least recently, to have a bit of an impact on process ramp-up. And then looking forward on the 50%, if you still expect that target toward the end of this year, and if looking into next year as you ramp up 5 and normally have a 2 to 3 point impact, if you still expect 50% reasonable for next year.
When we ramp up any new technologies, we have a series of productivity cost improvement activities on the plan. 7 nanometer is the same. 7 nanometer now is very, very busy. It's a lot of new tape out. So in second quarter, we have set a goal, but we did not achieve the goal. That is why, as I explained earlier, the margin fall into the low end of the guidance. Okay. As I said earlier, we have back to the track to gradually improve productivity, and with the volume continue to come in third and fourth quarter, and we are still confident we can achieve our cost reduction and productivity target. As to the 50% gross margin, I think for the whole year, I think the main reason is the lower utilization, particularly the first half of the year. As I said, if we can maintain the high utilizations, which we believe we can, the 50% is still a good target going forward.
Okay. And that implies also fourth quarter of this year?
That is certainly my hope.
Okay, great. Okay. Second question, I actually wanted to ask a bit more on the sales growth outlook you put out. And maybe the first starting point is you originally guided the full year would be growing back in April. And so I was wondering if you could update that expectation. And then to dig into the growth, if you could talk a bit about, in that guidance for high teens growth, for the different segments, the HPC, auto, IoT, smartphones, how you're seeing each of those segments for third quarter and second half, and if you're also seeing cryptocurrency come back.
Well, for the first part, I think CC can answer. Yeah.
Okay. What is the first part?
Wrong question. First part was if you still think you can grow for this year.
For the whole year?
For the whole year.
Let me give you some kind of a taste. Right now, you know, the uncertainties really become, in these days, is really hard to say. So I cannot give you a kind of a very firm number of what kind of a growth we are going to get. But I can assure you that the fourth quarter will be better than the third quarter. That's all I can say. Okay. How much? I don't know yet. So you can calculate. All right.
The key is fourth quarter we think will be better than third quarter. So I think the second part maybe Laura can answer.
Randy, did you ask about the by platform growth for third quarter?
Yeah, if you could give the third quarter and then an update on the full year for the platforms.
Okay. Third quarter, as I just guided, there's a sequential 18% growth. We are seeing very strong growth on smartphone. And also, actually, all platforms are going to grow in third quarter across the board, with smartphone growing the most. And also, HPC is growing very nicely. IoT is very strong, although it's very small as a basis. And we also see automotive coming up to grow. It was kind of low in the first half of the year. Okay. In terms of the whole year, we expect smartphone will grow single digit year over year. HPC, if exclude cryptocurrency, we will also see single digit growth. But with the cryptocurrency is a decline number. Okay. IoT will grow more than double digit very nicely. Automotive will be a down platform for the year. Okay. So that is the segment analysis.
Just the final clarification. For cryptocurrency, if you're seeing, like, how much of that activity is coming back, and do you expect to target that, and any of the new capacity on 7 tied to that?
CC, will you answer that? Yeah.
The cryptocurrency recently, the pricing is up, and so we start to see the demand improving. We support the cryptocurrencies by available capacities.
Next question will be also coming from the floor from Morgan Stanley's Charlie Chan.
Thanks. My first question is about your full-year outlook. I think there is still uncertainty about the U.S.-China tension. Huawei is still in the entity list, right? So when you plan the full year or even fourth quarter, do you discount that risk? How much do you discount the risk from Huawei? And also, I think that there's a different to the intuition, right? Meaning the biggest impact to the industry could be the 5G infrastructure from the U.S.-China tension. But you are seeing that infrastructure demand is accelerating, right? So can you give us some sense that what you see differently about the infrastructure markets?
All right. The effect of Huawei being in the entity list and impact to TSMC, we do see some impact, but not direct business between Huawei and TSMC, actually HiSilicon and TSMC, because we already announced that we continue our shipping practice, because we follow the law, so we continue to ship. The infrastructure, actually, the 5G's development actually accelerate, and we see a very strong demand from that. And as I said in my statement, in many countries, that they speed up the 5G's deployment, and we see the increase of the demand on our leading edge 7 nanometer.
So the thing is that, for example, being in the entity list, Huawei still has some restriction to update, for example, Google's mobile service, and that has impacted their overseas smartphone demand. And according to your breakdown, the smartphone business still can see single-digit Y-on-Y growth. Right? So I'm wondering, have you discount the potential downside risk if that entity list issue is going to last longer?
Actually, I don't want to specifically pinpoint one customer only. All I can say is the second half, the new smartphone launches, especially the premium grade, has been the seasonality phenomena for us, always the second half. And the acceleration of the 5G actually enhance this kind of increase. That's all I can say.
Let me add a little bit too. Of course, the second half, there are still a lot of uncertainties, right? The geopolitical trade policy changes still go with the time. But I think the second half, the biggest growth momentum comes from the new smartphone launches. On Huawei's factors, yes, we think we did the discount. But since Huawei's brand, many things happens too. The downside is generally the smartphone market becoming uncertain, in addition to Huawei themselves. So the whole smartphone market is suppressed, I think. And secondly is the trade barrier. Trade uncertainties still prevail in all sectors. So from all sectors, particularly the industrial and the consumer, I think we still see the momentum still not coming back. And but of course, the 5G momentum picking up, that is also new for the world globally, in U.S., in China, in Korea, and Japan, and so forth. So those all factors combined, we think we try to make the best judgment, and I think that's the conclusion CC just delivered.
Thanks. That's very helpful. And my next question is to Laura. It's going to be a tough question before your transfer to another role. So follow up Randy's question, right? So compare your third quarter revenue scale versus the revenue scale in the first quarter 2018. That quarter you made 50% gross margin, right? So that means you have a higher scale, but the gross margin I think is 3 percentage points or 4 percentage points than that quarter, right? So I'm asking you whether there's any structural issue, and also more specifically, your 7 nanometer is in the second year, right? So supposedly it shouldn't cause any margin dilution anymore, especially you are saying that 7 nanometer fab is quite busy, right? So can you explain, why revenue scale is higher, fab is busy, second year of the new nodes, but the gross margin is below, a few quarters ago? Thanks.
Actually, utilization is still the main factor if you compare on year-over-year basis. Of course, there is still some dilution for N7, but this dilution will start to diminish it as we have much strong demand in the second half. Okay. Another thing is there's a little bit of product mix issue, because we have portfolio product mix. We have talked about this. The certain technology is not capacity here is low. For example, 28 nanometer, that has some impact on our overall corporate margin. So those are the things I can think of that related to the margin changes. Okay.
All right, we will go to the line now. Operator, please have the first caller on the line.
The first question comes from the line of Gokul Hariharan from JP Morgan. Please ask your question.
Yes, thanks for taking my question, and apologies for the voice. First question, there's been a lot of discussion recently about more competition from one of your foundry competitors. Could PCC talk a little bit about a roadmap on 5 nanometer and especially on 3 nanometer, where one of your competitors is looking to introduce a zero transistor structure like gate all around? Is TSMC going to stick with FinFET at 3 nanometer as well, or TSMC is also likely to move to a nano sheet or gate all around structure? That's my first question. Secondly, could we talk a little bit about what is the activity level TSMC is seeing at 5 nanometer capacity? I think previously you mentioned that 5 nano is seeing you're building lesser 5 nanometer capacity for next year. And could we also talk a little bit about how are customers thinking in terms of choosing for 6 nanometer versus 5 nanometer, especially the customers who are on 7 nanometer today? Thank you.
All right, Gokul, since I guess because you have a flu, so we can't really hear you quite well. But let me try to see if I understand your questions. First, your question is with regard to the competition within foundry. You asked whether we can compare our technology roadmap of 5 nanometer and 3 nanometer versus that of the competitors. And your second question is with respect to 5 nanometer, where you asked that we seem to be a little bit more conservative about 5 nanometer capacity build plan some time ago, and now we are a bit more aggressive. And so you are asking us if we have seen any differences in customers' demand for 5 nanometer.
Cici, would you answer the first
question? Yeah, that's right. The first question? First question is 5 nanometer and 3 nanometer. We think our 5 nanometer is very competitive and the first one in the industry in that geometry. And what be the risk production right now and the volume production the first half in the next year. This continue to be the same situation. And about the 3 nanometer, let me clarify a little bit. We have evaluated all the possible options and come with a very good solution for our customer. We continue to work with our customer to define the spec, to define the approaches, and to meet their requirement. And I'll update you that our choices next time.
Let me add that actually our 5 nanometer is a full node stride from our 7 nanometer. And our 3 nanometer is another full node stride from our 5 nanometer. This is very different than our competitors' roadmap. So if you compare their numerical 3 is probably closer to the 5. Secondly, on the 5 nanometer capacity build, the second question is?
Yeah.
5 nanometer
capacity. Customer demand.
Okay, CC then.
Okay. The 5 nanometer, in the last quarter, when we communicated with you, we say that we are going to be a little bit conservative and to work with customers to plan the capacity that necessary to support them. Now in these 3 months, because of speed up of the 5G's development, we are working with the customer again. We have to up our, probably we change our conservative attitude to become a little bit more aggressive. And so to meet our customers' demand. Right now, this is a new development, all because of 5G AI's progress.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's come back to the floor. Next question will be coming from Goldman Sachs, Bruce Lu.
Good afternoon. The last couple months has been pretty exciting in terms of the microenvironment. So I think there are some changes in terms of customer behavior. Typically, we somehow synchronize their production together with their sales. If they have some problem in terms of the sales, they somehow change their production plan. There may be some time lag. But last couple of months, we start to see that, customer is willing to put piling up more inventory, is willing to, there are some disruption in terms of their sales plan. But in terms of production plan, you don't really see a lot of meaningful changes, at least for TSMC. So how do we forecast this kind of thing moving forward? It seems to me that the macro environment seems so dynamic, but we have, as analysts, we have a lot of difficulties, right? We can't just follow the tweet, right? So how, can you help us how to do how to predict that kind of customer behavior in terms of the production planning moving forward?
That's an interesting question. You ask us how we estimate or forecast the customers' inventory or how they pile up their component. Let me tell you that TSMC only received the PO we put into production. Okay, and we did not see that strange customers' behavior, say that they are piling up of the product in expectation of something happen. No, we did not see that. That's in our daily life. Again, let me stress one point. We receive the PO, we do the production, and we did not see a very strange kind of phenomena.
So don't follow the tweet. As the fabless inventory, I think Laura just reported, is coming down.
Yeah, but one of the important customers, they don't provide the public information.
That's
so
right.
That becomes the biggest swing factors, right?
Most the system companies, we have the inside look. But the company you just mentioned, yes, indeed, we do not know their inventories. But from their orders stream, we don't see any abnormal flow.
The second thing is that management kept on mentioning about 5G's acceleration. Can you give us some granularity about what kind of revenue contribution coming from 5G in the second half 2019 or 2020? Either from smartphone side or from infrastructure side. What is the revenue exposure to TSMC at this moment?
Laura, do we have a 5G specific pointed out?
We don't.
it's difficult to kind of differentiate how much demand is coming from 5G. We track the demand on node basis, also on platform basis. 5G may be related to HPC, some of the smartphone as well. And we do see those two segments are growing very strongly.
Yeah, let me add some color to it. Actually, the networking processor, FPGA product, even some CPUs, and also base station, smartphone, that all are in 5G. And we see a very, very strong demand in the second half of this year.
I think the question you're asking about exposure of 5G, what can you elaborate what that means? Well, basically is because that is the strongest demand as management just mentioned, right? So basically we try to get some granularity, or we try to quantify how much growth we can expect moving forward, right? So yeah, as I said, it can be any kind of product. So but the bigger revenue contribution still comes from the base station and the smartphone side, right? So that's the key area we are trying to focus on. Yes, and the smartphone implementation of 5G on smartphone, we see actually stronger than when we were at 4G's ramp. Okay, that's the information you get, and that is the opportunity for us as we consider it. Yeah. Lastly, can I squeeze in that? Can we still maintain that 5 years revenue CAGR guidance?
Sure.
I love that.
Okay, so that's the confirmation. Next question will be coming from Citigroup's Roland Xu.
Hi, good afternoon. Will the 7 nanometer reach 25% of total revenue this year? And 7 nanometer will be the biggest node ever in revenue to TSMC this year. And next year, CCU expect 7 nanometer will be growing even more than 25% of total revenue next year. So it means that 7 nanometer will be even bigger. And then CCU also said 5 nanometer going forward will be a big and long-lasting node, and also will be growing bigger than 7 nanometer. So I still maintain this view with this 7 nanometer is going to be very big next year.
First, let me say again, it will be very big next year. All right. And why we are so upbeat on the 5 nanometer, because we forecast the ramp up will be faster than, in terms of revenue, faster than 7 nanometer. And we expect that our 5 nanometer solution to all the customer is very competitive. And, the 5G AI, again, that will be benefit the 5G's, the 5 nanometers of growth and the 7 nanometer.
Yeah, so for next year, first you are going to ramp 5 nanometer very fastly, and then you still have a very big 7 nanometer. So for next year, I think so what is the overall growth outlook for you for next year?
Let's wait for next year that I give you the answer. But all your statements are true.
Okay, thank you. Second question actually is also related to this 7 nanometer and the 5 nanometer. So now you are your 7 plus is entering mass production. So how is the EUV availability and the productivity for your 7 plus so far? Has it reached the mass production need now?
The EUV, we don't see any problem in production. So it's going very well, on schedule, and we are very happy about it.
How does this EUV productivity or reliability compare to immersion in the same stage?
Same stage.
Same stage. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So far, it's on our schedule, everything according to the plan. So that's all I can say.
Okay. So just an outlook view. So for next year, with your very fast 7 nanometer and the 5 nanometer ramp, so is this EUV going to be a big dilution to the gross margin next year?
Oh, that's a tough question. All I can say is that EUV will perform as we scheduled, all right? And it will be very important in our cost reduction path.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go back to the line. Operator, please have the next caller on the line.
Next question comes from Mehdi Husseini from SIG. Please ask your question.
Yes, thanks for taking my question. A couple of follow-ups. On the Capex item, how should I think about a higher than expected Capex in 2019? Is that more of a pull-in from 2020, or your capital intensity is going to remain at a higher level looking forward?
We are still working on the Capex number. We're going to report to you next quarter. I think in terms of direction, and we are seeing more Capex requirement, both for 7 nanometer, also for 5 nanometer. For 5 nanometer, we need to pull in the tool to meet customers' request. Okay. So in terms of capital intensity, you will probably see in the short-term period, you will go higher than what I has guided at a 30% level. But in the longer term, we still believe the 30% level is the right level of Capex intensity.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up on your view on Q4. I get a sense that there are a still uncertain environment. What is the one end market that is the most valuable when you think about the trend into Q4?
Mehdi, you are asking what is the one end market that is most vulnerable or valuable? I didn't.
That makes it more challenging to
most challenging. Okay.
Forecast
for Q4.
Yeah.
Well, I think the most recent Japan and Korea dispute probably is the most uncertain one for the fourth quarter.
Sure. So how should I think about its impact on a specific end market? Is that more of a broad-based unknown fact? Is the unknown more of a broad-based macroeconomic trends, or is it specific to one particular end market?
It is so uncertain that we cannot pin down specific product that be impacted. People talk about smartphone itself could be impacted, but it breaking down many supply chains. So it is including display or other other electronic components. So that is the difficult part for us to make a estimation.
Okay, good. May I ask you one more question?
Okay. All right.
So I'll make it quick. I think there's no doubt that 5G opportunities are enormous. But I just want to better understand how TSMC is planning. Carriers refer to a commercial end market or commercial aspect of 5G as more meaningful than consumer on handset. On the other hand, your customers, semiconductor companies, highlight the opportunities in the smartphone. So as you plan for your capacity, leading-edge capacity plans, it's very long lead time. How do you think about 5G and its impact on consumer, which is more of a handset, a smartphone, versus commercial aspect, which could have an impact on your HPC or other segments?
Well, actually, let me answer the question, because of 5G, what we expect is not only on the consumer product like a smartphone per se. I do think the 5G will affect every area in our platform. For example, without 5G, the autonomous driving will not be possible. So it's very important for automotive also. It's very important for the high-performance computing also, because that's one of that networking processor, everything connected. It's also important for the IoT because of that where you collect all the data, and with the 5G, it's a multi-channel with a very small latency, with very high speed, and with and all the data collection need to be analyzed. So I think in terms of 5G's effect on the business and also on TSMC's capacity plan is enormous. So what TSMC is doing is right now working with all the customers to plan for their business and plan our own capacity. That's all I can say.
Let me add some color for this. 5G.
Thank you.
5G. I think if you look at next year, the biggest business influencer should be in the smartphone, and secondly will be the high performance computing, which composed of the networking and other infrastructures. As far as automotive and IoT consumer, we have a high expectation for that. But I think it will take some time before the usage model get implemented in the market. That will come to us later.
Your next question comes from the line of Bill Lu from UBS. Please ask your question.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Laura for all the help over the years and patience in answering all of the questions. So thanks a lot and best of luck. My first question is again on 7 nanometers. If I go back and look at TSMC for 28 nanometers, that was TSMC's most successful node of all time, and that coincided with the big smartphone ramp. If I now look at 7, you've got the move from 4G to 5G, but you're also adding HPC. How do I think about if I look at capacity for 7, is it reasonable to assume that it could be bigger than 28?
Seven at this same stage, is it bigger than 28? Are we? Oh, okay. So my members say yes, but I think I don't think so.
I think revenue-wise, 7 nanometer was definitely much bigger than 28 nanometer, but not necessarily capacity.
But necessary, yeah, not capacity.
Okay. Can you give me a sense for, ultimately how big 7 capacity could be relative to 28?
It's smaller, but it's close at the same stage.
Okay, great. Maybe I can ask that a different way, which is if you look at 7 nanometer demand, let's say a year from now, what do you think is the split between HPC, smartphones, and maybe the other platforms?
Bill is asking, a year from today, if we look back and look at the 7 nanometer revenue, what will be the split between HPC, smartphone, and other platforms?
We don't have the specific number, but if you look at today's HPC and smartphone percentage ratio, I think it will be probably similar, although a fraction of the smartphone may not be the leading edge. But for those two sectors, both sectors are closer to the leading edge. So both of those segments will go to 7 nanometer. So it's probably smartphone will still be bigger than HPC, but it's a similar ratio, I think, as the business we have today.
Great. My second question is on 5 nanometers. So a quarter ago, I asked Dr. Wei about the cost per transistor at 5 nanometers, And I heard some of the feedback from customers is that maybe it's not coming down as fast as expected. And I think Dr. Wick's answer was that TSMC is working on it. I'm just wondering, can you give me an update on that, whether cost has seen improvements or what's the status there?
Excuse me, you're asking the device improvement or is it demand improvement?
No, sorry. I think if you look at cost per transistor for 5 nanometers, it's not coming down as fast as previous nodes. I'm wondering if you have an update there.
No, I don't have any update, except that right now we see a much more stronger demand.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Bill. Let's come back to the floor. Next question will be coming from Daiwa's Rick Xu.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Just one question from me. I think Laura just talking about this year's revenue growth by different platforms. So like smartphone up a single digit, high performance single digit up, and IoT up double digit. So if I recall my memory, this set of guidance looks the same as that you provided early this year. So can I fairly assume by your total revenue, you guys still keep the same guidance of the revenue for the whole year will be up slightly year on year?
There's still uncertainty on fourth quarter. What I can say now is fourth quarter revenue will be higher than third quarter.
Okay, fair enough. Just one quick follow-up. Can you also update us this year's global semi outlook and also global foundries?
Next, you mean 2020?
This year.
This year's?
Well, this year's foundry actually is a little bit negative.
Semi exclude memory,
Yeah.
negative 3%. Foundry, negative 1% this year.
Okay, thank you so much.
So we have implicitly answered your question.
Thanks.
All right, next question will be coming from Credit Suisse, Randy.
I just want to help. There's been a lot of press and maybe it's noise about customers evaluating other foundries. So you are talking about strong 5G, HPC. I'm just curious if you're factoring in any offsets. Like in the past, you've had a couple major customers like go back and forth between foundries. So as you look at the next couple years, do you see that much? Like how do you see your market share? And do you see any offsets to that strength over the next couple years?
Well, we did see the strong competition, but let me assure you that our technology is a leadership and also that our manufacturing is excellence. With our customers' trust, I believe we are going to maintain our market share and increase the market share. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Well, within that, because we know about some projects, like customers like AMD that have shut down or switched from global foundries. So it's more if you also see any offsetting drags that we should factor in. Just so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. If there's anything like we saw a few years ago, we had a mobile customer shift foundries. Like if you see any offsets or from a market share, it still looks like, I think in the past you've said you have pretty much all the customers, but if you still view that on the
Yeah, we factor in what the possible competitors' sales approach. We factor in.
Okay. And then if I could ask on the nodes, actually two of them. One on, as the 7 matures in the next couple years, how you now see the variation of 7 plus and 6. Because I think in the past you saw that as becoming mainstream if you still think the 7 evolves that way, where most of the customers move to the EUV version, 7 plus or 6, and then for 5 for next year, how concentrated do you see that, both in terms of customers and then also if it's concentrated smartphone or you see a lot of HPC?
Let me answer that a little bit. Ask about the 7 plus or 6, right? To continue the 7 nanometers node. Actually, we would believe that most of the customer, especially the second wave customer, was adopt the 6. Okay, because they're 100% compatible with the 7 that reduce their burden and redesign all the IPs. So the 6 will be a very sweet spot for them to continue with their 7 route. That's one. Okay. 7 plus this year actually is we provide a better performance and better density for some of the customers that have been adopted, and you will continue to grow. But the majority, as I said, will be going to 6. As for 5, 5 will be adopted by a lot of platform that including the smartphone, the mobile, including the high performance computing, and let me see what else. IoT? No, we did not see IoT yet. At the beginning, it will be mobile and HPC.
Next question will be coming from CL Securities, Sebastian Ho.
Thank you. My first question is a little bit follow on Randy's questions. So if we narrow down the Randy's questions to a very leading edge technology, the market share, let's say sub 10 nanometers market share in the next 3 years, what's TSMC's expectation on that? Are we going to maintain or further increase market share here?
I believe we will maintain, we'll have a very high market share. Very high.
So in terms of the very high, like 95 is high, 90 is high. So from 95 to 90
the number
down, I want to know the direction.
I think direction probably our 16 is higher than our 28.
Yeah.
And our 7 will be higher than our 16. And on.
Oh, 5? Then what's your expectation on 5 versus 7?
5 is too early to say, but we target to be higher than 7.
Okay. My second question is, can TSMC talk about the possibility of building a fab or acquire a fab company in the United States? And would this be out of the pure geopolitical concerns or any other consideration?
Of course, geopolitical concerns, everybody's concerns. However, if you want to answer how can we solve the concern, it's not that simple. It's not building a fab outside Taiwan or any other country can solve that problem. However, we are always open to build a fab in overseas, provided we can provide the same cost structure to our customers and to our investors. So far in the U.S., we have talked to the industry and to see whether that is a viable approach, is a good approach to our customers, given the cost differences, and if given by in addition to the local subsidies. But still, it's current supply from Taiwan is still the best solution for our customers. So we are open to that, but we are not in a hurry to make the decision. Of course, we also see some unproductive facility overseas. We don't want to increase the excess capacity for the industry. Therefore, the possible, in addition, the approach of building a greenfield fab
acquisition is probably better for the industry. That's our current consideration. But we don't have a definitive plan today that we are going to have that in the U.S. So at this point.
Okay, can I just conclude that so TSMC preference is to, if you're going to do this, and your preferred option would be buy rather than build?
At this point, yes.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Sang, can I add one more question?
Follow up later.
Okay, I'll come back later.
Yeah. Next will be coming from Citigroup's Roland Xu.
I would like to switch gear to 8-inch. So you load your 8-inch at the utilization, I think probably below corporate average in first half. So how do you see your 8-inch demand or utilization in second half?
The second half will be better. Actually, it's because of smartphones seasonality. So the 8-inch utilization rate will be much higher than the first half.
How do you compare with your corporate average?
Let me give you some taste that some of the segment actually is fully loaded.
Okay. So this is the demand across the board. So it's not just for certain customers rush order.
Oh, it's a demand across the board because of I'm talking about the product segment.
Okay. Thank you. Second question is, how about your Nanjing fab? So can you give us a color, update for your Nanjing fab?
Nanjing fab progress very well. The loading is very healthy, and we continue our plan. We are going to build 20,000 wafers per month as a capacity over there.
Any plan to above this 20,000?
Right now, 20,000 is our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Now let's go back to the line. Operator, please have the caller on the line. The next one.
Next question comes from the line of Shushi Zhu from Standard & Poor's. Please ask your question.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Just have very two brief questions. The first one is about your year-over-year drop of your net profit, net income. Could you please give us a specific reason for the drop, the 7.6% drop in the net income? And the second question is about your outlook on the mobile sales in year two. So you said it will be the main driver of your revenue growth. I was wondering, will that be overall increase of the shipment of the mobile that you are thinking about, or is there any other reasons such as the technology upgrades over there? That's all.
First question, of course, is to explain what was the reason behind the year-over-year drop of our net income in this year, I guess, or second quarter. The second question is the outlook for mobile. The growth that we indicated, was it because it was driven by a quantity increase, or it is because of technology migration, so leading to a revenue increase?
Let me answer the first questions. On year-over-year basis, if we look at the second quarter this year and the second quarter last year, the margin difference is mainly, there's about 5 percentage point margin difference, mainly from the lower utilization this year. You know, this first half of this year has to be very weak, including the second quarter. So utilization is the main reason. Okay. And a little bit of product mix as well. Okay.
Increase.
The second increase is smartphone revenue increase.
Oh, the second half's revenue increase due to the smartphone. First is because of seasonality, of course. So that's as compared with the first half. Second half, the smartphone is much better. Although we say that the whole year in the smartphone unit we forecast a drop. TSMC's revenue still grow because of one is because of a silicon content increase. Second one is because we gain the market share through our customer. So we still forecast the whole year the smartphone will increase in revenue, especially the second half will be much stronger than the first half. Did I answer the question?
Yes, great, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, operator, let's have this next caller on the line, please.
Next question is from Yu Bao Hua from Tencent Securities. Please ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, can I speak Chinese, please? Can I speak Chinese, please?
Yes, you can speak Chinese.
Okay, thank you. 是这样的，台积电今年就 TSMC 今年6月份销售额是858.7亿新台币，同比涨幅达到21.9%，单月营收超过预期。然后我想请问一下，两位嘉宾，就是关于 TSMC 下半年的展望，谢谢。
Let me translate to English first. Yu Bao had observed our June revenue, which is a strong growth, and he wants us to comment on the second half business outlook.
我们刚才已经给了第三季的 guidance， 是9.1到9.2个 billion 美金。我们没有给第四季的数字，但是我们说第四季的营收会比第三季要高，所以今年下半年来讲是比上半年要强的。
Can you speak in English too? For the record.
I have just gave the guidance for the third quarter, where our revenue in third quarter will be 9.1 to 9.2 billion US dollars. That is 18% sequential growth. As to the fourth quarter, we have said we believe our fourth quarter revenue will be higher than third quarter, but although there are still some uncertainties, we did not provide a clear guidance on the fourth quarter yet.
OK, thank you. 那我就是想继续问一下，就是在那个 smartphone 和 HPC 和 IoT 这三部分的比例会大概有一些什么样的预测呢？
你是说今年还是你问的是今年的比例是吧？ Okay. So Yobo's question is he likes to know the breakdown among our smartphones, HPC, and IoT among our growth platforms, the revenue breakdown.
I 不会给你 revenue breakdown， 但是 I will not provide a revenue breakdown by platform for the whole year. But I have just said that our smartphone will grow single digit. It still accounts for the biggest part of our revenue for the whole year, followed by an HPC, and then the rest of them are much smaller, like IoT, automotive, and DCE, and others.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We still have a caller on the line, so operator, let's go to the next caller on the line. Thank you.
We have another question from Mehdi Hosseini from SIG. Please ask your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just one quick follow-up. But before, I also want to express my gratitude to Laura Ho and wish her best of luck in her new endeavor. Going back to a question that came up in last earnings conference call had to do with the SOI, and I just want to revisit the topic and better understand how you're planning for some of the challenges that 5G brings, such as lower power consumption, and whether SOI is going to be included in your roadmap.
Well, we did develop some of the technology for the RF circuit, RF technology using the SOI wafers, but we don't do the logic technology on FD-SOI. So let me make it sure that everybody understands what I'm going to deliver. We don't do FD-SOI for logic, for conventional logic technology, but we do use SOI wafer to develop RF technologies. For the RF front end, for example, that we are doing. Did I answer the question?
Got it. Yes, thank you.
All right, let's come back to the floor. Next question will be coming from Morgan Stanley's Charlie Chan.
Thanks. I have two follow-up questions, and if I may have some industry cross-checks. So first of all, is about the smartphone semi-content increase. Can you give us some color, how much is that for this year? And also, when 5G comes next year, because the market was just very bullish about the 5G smartphone contribution next year. How would 5G smartphone to help on your semi-content growth in a smartphone? Thanks.
Okay. That's a good question, but it's very hard to identify what is the percentage of the silicon content increase. But let me give you some color of it. All right. The first one is look at your smartphone today. It's 3 camera, or 2 camera, or even 4 camera. Look at that, and look at the pixel size. Right? You might hear some of the pixel is 48 megapixel. Those kind of things come with silicon with it. So that's the silicon content, the first one. Actually, there's some other minor things. So for example, power management IC. Now, the power consumption is very important. So now every major component inside need a power management IC come with it. One is a screen driver, you need a power management. The application processor, you need a power management. Just a lot of things. And furthermore, let me give you some 5G, you have a lot of different channels. So now even the RF transceiver or RF front end, the die size is bigger. That's why I say that's why silicon content is increasing. Did I answer your question? But how many percentage, actually, I cannot identify it.
But how significant is for those modern chip or application processor? Because of that related to your business most. Can you give us some percentage of increase, like 10%, 20% increase?
Definitely, no. I cannot, because we are working on it. Okay. And we know all the minor details, so I cannot give you that some of the information.
Okay, that's fine. So next question, switch gear back to the gross margin. Right? So my question is that for your leading edge investment, do you feel like the payback period of those leading edge investments are getting longer or shorter? Right? Because I still want to find out some explanation why gross margin kind of decline year over year. So could be, leading edge investments getting heavier, or there's a true price competition from your competitors. So just want to get some thoughts from you on this topic.
So Laura, can you give an idea on the payback years?
Okay. Actually, personally, I don't think a payback year means much. If you look at the various technologies, actually, I checked this question. They look very much the same. Of all know, the payback year are very much the same. However, I think the ramp profile is very different. And the sensitivity of utilization to margin is different. The more leading edge is more sensitive to margin. So leading edge needs to have very high utilization to secure the margin. That's the key. And we are working on it. Okay.
Thanks. And two things I want to cross-check, if I may. First of all, you mentioned that you pull in some 5 nanometer Capex to this year, right? So next year, do you think the Capex level would be at the range of your kind of annual guidance? And secondly, about the raw wafer price, do you think you can get a good bargain on the raw wafer price for next year? Thanks.
I think next year's Capex will have to depend on a lot of things. Depend on overall market conditions, the customer's requirements, and so forth. So it's probably too early to say whether it's going back to this old range of target. As we get more clear, we will communicate with you. Okay. The raw wafer price, I think we have done a good job and to lock in the price. And that is also a continual effort. Okay.
I think make sure you understand. Laura just mentioned it will exceed the top range what we gave you today.
All right, follow-up question will be coming from CL Securities, Sebastian Ho.
Thank you. I have two follow-ups. The first one is, for the past several earnings call, I always feel like TSMC 5nm tape-out activity or interest level from clients isn't as large as 7nm at the same stage. If I'm right. Now you mentioned stronger 5nm demand, and is it more driven by the accelerated 5G deployment, or also driven by the EUV cost or EUV economic improvements?
It's actually driven by the 5G's accelerations.
Okay. And in terms of the 5G acceleration, do you see them more from HPC or smartphone?
Both, actually. Because of 5G infrastructure is in the FPC's area.
Right.
On the smartphone, almost all the premium phone is with TSMC.
Okay, because if I understand that correctly, I think so far most of the infrastructure baseband, 5G baseband is still on 12 or 16 nanometers, the mainstream right now, and so you see the accelerated 5nm demand. So basically, we will assume that the next uptick will be 7, and I also see 5.
Oh, I see. You are talking about that. Some of the networking process are probably going to the 5nm, but some will stay in 7, and some of them, the baseband, actually most of the baseband are going to the most leading edge technology.
I think if it's, of course, in terms of revenue, smartphone is bigger than the base station, okay? And in the 5nm, the big players get into 5G smartphone very aggressively. And doesn't take many tape-outs, just a few tape-outs. It demands us a much bigger capacity than any other products.
Thank you. The second follow-up is, I'd like to hear TSMC's views on the next generation architecture of transistor. So how do you see the FinFET and Gate-All-Around? How to compare that to see the pros and cons of these two architecture in 5nm and 3nm? Because it seems like one of your competitors is promote GAA aggressively.
Yeah, we noticed that. And actually, we also have evaluated all the options just as what I said. And we look at the pros and cons, and we work with our customer, and we choose the most competitive in terms of performance and cost-wise. So we choose the most competitive approaches. So we work with our customer, actually, closely.
Okay, but wouldn't it make sense to assume that, because so far since 16nm to 10 to 7, the industry standard has been FinFET. So customers will be easier to dual source if they want to, or if they can. But going forward, if there's going to be different routes, one doing GAA, one doing FitFed, would it make customers dual sourcing more difficult?
Actually, let me say that even the FinFET structure, it's very hard to switch the foundry. It's very hard because of the design rule, the architecture, the design flow are all different. At the 5 nanometers geometry, TSMC still think the FinFET is the best one, although we have evaluated all other options. But so far, we still, in 5 nanometer geometry, please notice that 5 nanometer geometries, FinFET is still the most efficient one, the most competitive one. For the 4-node transition to the next one, 3 nanometer, we are evaluating everything. We talk with our customer when we will define what are the approaches that we are using.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we can conclude our Q&A session now, knowing that we have evaluated all available options and picked the optimal one. Okay, before we end today's conference, please be advised that the replay of the conference will be accessible within 4 hours from now. Transcript will be available 24 hours from now, both of which will be available through our website at www.tsmc.com. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you will join us again next quarter. Goodbye and have a good day.